this week's edition of HGA's Tuesday Tips. I'm Julie.
I'm Wendy.
I'm Shonda.
And again, we're here with Dale Standford with Primary Residential Mortgage. Dale, thank you for joining us again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bet.
So you have shared a lot of knowledge, but we have so many questions. I know that's going to be helpful for the buyers out there. So let's get started.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of wondering, when we're out there with our clients, some of them want the best price possible, and sometimes we want them to maybe keep the price a little higher and ask for closing costs. Can you explain maybe what would work best? Or
That's an awesome question because it makes a big difference on how you write up the offer, how you negotiate. It makes a big difference on the bottom line with the loan. So I think the first part of that is just meeting with us and making the game plan, right? Because it depends on your situation, and I think it's important to figure out, as a home buyer, what are your goals, what do you want, and what's the big picture, right? Like, it's very exciting to buy a house, whether it's your first house or you have multiple. It's an exciting, emotional process.
Right, and some buyers aren't aware that there are closing costs involved. They think, oh, I'm going to go buy a house for this much, and this is what I'm taking the loan out on. They don't realize there are things that
And they think about down payment.
They think about payment. Yes, so there's many things to consider, and that's why you need to have those conversations.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to have a game plan before you even go out and start looking at houses. So that's where we come in. We'll do a loan consultation. There's no cost, no obligation. It's just a conversation. We're going to talk, and I'm going to help you figure out what is the best way to approach this. And so specifically, let's say that if you have enough money to cover down payment and closing costs, and maybe even points to buy the rate down, that's great. But if you have the seller pay some of that for you, there's pros and cons to that. But it can be a huge help. It can help you buy the rate down. It can help you bring less money to closing and still get you qualified for the loan. So the answer is, it depends on your situation.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, I think it does. Every loan, it has its own scenarios and qualifications, steps and stuff like that.
It just goes back to what you said before. We personalize every single loan to the individual needs.
Yeah. One quick little number, just as an FYI, is if you took $5,000 and you lowered your loan amount with that money, or you put it towards buying the rate down. If you lower the loan amount, it would difference, depending on the scenario, loan amount and so forth, but it would drop your payment about $31 a month to lower the loan amount. If you took that same amount and bought the rate down 0.25%, it would drop your payment by $81.
Oh.
Right? So those are just little tricks that it depends, right? So we'll figure it all out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So explain the difference between, what is earnest money and how it helps in the transaction. So we understand it goes towards the purchase of the home. It can be part of their down payment. How important is it? I mean, I always say 1% or more when I'm writing up a transaction, because it shows that you are serious about purchasing the home. That's on our end. How is it on your end?
See, so I think, again, that's let me just put a plug in real quick, okay? Can I share right here the number one tip to being successful as a homeowner? Get a great realtor. Two rules. Get a great realtor and obey the realtor. Like, do what they say, because they know, they're the experts, right? Like, you're buying a house, like, let's get an expert and let's trust them, right? So earnest money is a big deal, because earnest money is, I think, misunderstood a lot by home buyers. They think, oh, I don't want to part with this money, I'm putting this at risk, like, I'm throwing it out there and I may not get it back. That's not going to happen, okay? When you have a great realtor, that money's protected. But from a negotiating standpoint, I think the more you put down, the better. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I tell my clients all the time, the more you put down, the better. I'm gonna watch those deadlines.
yes.
I am not going to lose
Yes.
that money for you. I am here to protect you.
Yep.
Put it down, because you know what? You're gonna be spending that money when you close anyway. So
Yes.
let's just show that how serious you really are about buying
It's
this
huge.
home.
If you're in a multiple offer situation, so there's more than one person offering on the house you want to stand out. So if you think about it from the seller's perspective, if they're looking at 3 offers and they're all very similar, and they all have 2 of them have $1,000 earnest money, and then one has $5,000, like, I will take that one, because the seller can have the same perception that I at least have it as a guarantee, but you're not going to lose that money because your awesome realtor is going to protect it.
I agree 100%. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because that's always the question. Many years ago, you say, oh, I'll give you 500, I'll give you
Right.
1,000. Those days are long gone.
Right.
We need to be competitive in this, and we're gonna show that we're serious, yeah.
absolutely.
That's perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a little bit earlier, you were talking about buy downs.
Okay.
What is a 2-1 buy down? What does that look like when you're closing on
Yep.
a home?
So 2-1 buy down or a 3-2-1 buy down or 1 buy down, they're temporary buy downs. So let's just say today the rate's 6.5%. Okay. If you do a 2-1 buy down, that means you're going to pay X amount of dollars. In fact, let me tell you exact numbers. So
Yes.
if you let's just say you're borrowing $400,000, the amount that is needed to do the buy down is $9,100. Okay, so your agent can negotiate for potentially the seller to pay that for you, and then you use that money to get a lower rate. So it's 2% lower the first year, 1% lower the second year, and then it stays at 6.5% the rest of the life of the loan. So it's fantastic, right? It's going to save in that scenario $500 a month for the first year, and then $257 a month lower the second year, and then the third year and beyond, it's just back to what the normal rate would be at 6.5%.
Right. And this all needs to be written into the contract.
Right.
Right to the dollar amount.
Yeah, and we'll tell you exactly what it is. We'll calculate the exact thing, but again, it's one of those things. It's an amazing tip to be able to get into the house that you want with a much lower payment, and then you've got 2 years to kind of prepare for the payment that's going to be the rest of the life of the loan.
Well, as a first-time home buyer, that allows you to kind of adjust into what your payments are gonna be. Knowing what they're gonna be, you already know that.
And you're getting the seller to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're coming up with the money. The seller's going to pay for that and give you the lower payment.
Excellent. Okay. Now you said the first year the payment was a certain amount, the second year the payment was a certain amount, third year it goes back. What if rates drop? Can we refinance at that time?
See, again, there's so many little details that are so important, so important. This is, because the other thing we need to talk about is, instead of doing a temporary buy down, you can do a permanent buy down, right?
Yes.
So a permanent buy down is, let's say we take that same amount of money, and instead of doing a 2-1 buy down, we just do a permanent buy down. So instead of 6.5%, depending on where rates are and so forth, maybe you can buy the rate down to, let's say, 5 7/8. Okay.
Okay.
So the difference is your payment's not going to be $500 less a month. The first year is going to be, X amount lower, but then it's that much lower for the life of the loan. And so we just have to weigh that out. Again, personalizing your experience, personalizing your loan for your situation. One might be better than the other for your situation. When it comes to refinancing, a huge advantage of the 2-1 buy down is that if you refinance within the first 2 years, whatever is unused of that buy down can go towards the new loan. So down payment, or not down payment because you're refinancing, but lowering your loan amount or buying the rate down more if you want to on that permanent loan. It just gives you some options. On a permanent buy down, that money's lost.
Yeah.
Right? So again, there's pros and cons of your situation.
So tying into that, so when you buy down a rate, what are the increments that you can, and what's the dollar amount associated with each increment?
So generally speaking, it's going to be 0.5 point by doing 1/8%. So interest rates go in 1/8% increments. Okay, so 6, 6 1/8, 6 1/4, 6 3/8, 6 1/2, so forth, right? And then 0.5 point. Let's just say it's a $100,000 loan amount. 0.5 point is going to be $500. Okay, so you pay that one-time fee, and then you forever have an 1/8% lower rate. So the question is it worth doing that? And the answer is, it depends. Okay, it always depends on the situation, but we have to look at what is the break-even point. Okay, so if you're going to be in the home very short-term for whatever reason, then it doesn't make sense.
Right.
If you're pretty confident rates are going to go down and you refinance, it doesn't make sense. Although we can't guarantee that, so that's a whole other discussion of whether or not that's worth it or not. But it just depends on, how much money you want to spend for that and how long you're going to be in the home. It can be a huge savings, right? You can save a lot of money in the long run by paying some points up front.
That's awesome, because I have a client, and when we were talking about it, it's like, if I can buy the rate down, and he does have the money to buy the rate down. So I mean, and it made a huge difference in his monthly payment. He's like, okay, I can make this happen. We're still trying to find him a property, so we'll eventually get him into something.
See, where it gets tricky, so like I mentioned, that other buyer that we were able to drop his payment significantly, we do a combination of things. We do a little bit of a temporary buy down, we do a permanent buy down, we do a loan reduction, get some grant money, some different things to help out, and combination of all these different things to help lower the payment.
So there's so many things out there. This is why we have Dale.
This is why experts are so important.
Yes, there's so many things out there that we don't know them all. This is not our expertise. That's why we have you. So this has just been wonderful. Dale, thank you. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
All right. Tune in next week for HGA Tuesday Tips. We're going to bring Dale back for even more questions. Have a great day.
Bye.
Okay.